We are past 2 o'clock and getting into the closing discussion. And how do you close an amazing day like this? This has been an extraordinary program. My name is Heidi Svane, and I will be facilitating this final discussion. But I want to maybe say more the opening discussion of the continuous conversation that such a day has fostered. Today, I represent Lifestyle and Design Cluster. I'm head of digital at our business cluster. We're a national business cluster out of Denmark, and it is our primary role to make sure that the industry in fashion, furniture, design stays among the most innovative. And I'm going to applaud everybody who has spoken up today, and specifically also everybody that has participated and raised good questions, because I feel the urge to just take each one of you and introduce you to a company tomorrow so they can see what tsunami is coming towards the industry. We have worked with digital fashion as a business cluster for a long time now, educating slowly the industry, what's to come, what this toolbox can open up for them. And I'm going to start with kind of raising this quote that Fernanda kind of started out the day with and saying, instead of, as an educator or school, raising the question, when is the right time to educate our students within the digital tools, you should, ask what the industry needs instead. And I feel that this industry is in this very unique moment of disruption, because we can't ask the industry what it needs right now, because they don't know. They don't know how to change. They don't know how to move beyond this linear way of producing. And we experience a lot of brands that wants to, and they're testing and they're, using tools and experimenting, but it is a huge industry to change. And there's very big muscles. There's a very big business model with a lot of different people making money in a specific way. So, if you didn't pat an educator on the shoulders today, you have to do that before you go home from work, because they are training the students of the future that not only has to come out with this new toolbox, but they also have to have the language of a change manager. They have to speak words that their new employer might not even know. And I recognize this personally. In my first job, I was educated in marketing and the future of online media and social media and all these great new words we knew. And when I was signing my contract as a social media manager, in my contract, it said, you cannot be on Facebook during work hours. And I feel like all these designers that you're talking about, they're standing on that, that stepping stone. Hey, Mr., Mrs., I'm your new designer. Look at all these skills I have. Well, you can't be on the internet during work hours. So it's such a difficult task that they're working and being part of right now. And this is why it's so important that we host conferences like this. We have to find the language, we have to find the tools, we have to help these students move forward, and we need the industry to move forward. So I'm so happy that we have explored this change for me, for you, for us. And I really encourage you to revisit the roadmap that the project has produced, because I think there's, for me at least, there was 3 really crucial points that I'm going to bring forward, at least for my future meets with brands and the industry. And this is that digital skills are built step by step today, because time, money, resources, it doesn't allow us to take out 6 months and deep dive like we did when we did a master thesis or something else. So today, the training of new competencies and skills are hands-on insights, best practices, cases, next practices, and then iterate again, iterate again, iterate again. This is the pace of the new world. And I really like the way they address this in the roadmap. Then I'm gonna like highlight it and take a picture of it. These tools can reduce waste. They can support inclusion. Yay, hooray, finally. And this is the voice that we need to encourage, because they can also, always like a Hyde and a Jekyll, they have two faces. They can also increase a faster fashion, a faster pace, and an overproduction. So we need the critical thinking, otherwise we risk fueling the wrong pace of the industry. And then a real change has to happen in this coherency. We're in kind of the educator world today, but I keep hearing the references on how you're doing the bridge building between the industry, how you're feeding the policymakers with the change that's needed. And this is where I always love when industry has time to connect with education, because this is where we have the time to reflect, to pause for a minute and look at the bigger picture, where industry often has to think about the next quarter or the next revenue stream or the next production line. Education has the time to raise questions and pause for a minute. So this is why this open resource, lifelong learning, is a very hard push that we need to continue. So that was just, my initial thoughts to this opening of the last conversation of the day. And we're going to address 3 questions. Of course, I want to invite all the amazing speakers that's been part of the program today, but I recognize so many great names out there and so many competent people. So if you're urged to grab the mic and raise your voice, please do so. But we're gonna, in this last session, address 3 questions. If online meetings, your brain can kind of drop out in a minute. So we have to first address, what are the key insights? If you forgot to pay attention for a little bit, this is the moment. What are the key insights that we have covered today? And then we need to address a little bit about the future skills. So what is it that we have to train tomorrow? Maybe looking ahead a few years from now, it's probably way too difficult to say 5 years from now, but just a little hindsight. And then finally, you guys have all in the panels discussed the barriers and the opportunities, but we need to keep push for the implementation of these digital tools so the students can come out and really make the change. So that will be the final question for this table today. But let's start out. Key insights of the day. If we are educating the industry and the students, future employees, one job that we always do with the industry when they are trained is 4 questions. What do you have to start doing? What do you have to stop doing? What do you have to do more of? And what do you have to do less of? And this is where I want to raise the question to the panelists, because I did not hear what the students had to cut back on. I only heard that they have to do more, learn more, have more skills, have greater capacity and skills. And I don't want them to go into this stressed world. So what is it maybe that they have to do more of, but what do they also have to do less of? Somebody wants to open up the floor a little bit. Key insights for the day.
If I may, through the research, we experienced at our school that the students would indeed have some content fatigue, because there was more tools, and each module it became more, and the tool developed further, so the expectations was higher. So at the moment we're also in conversation to which parts of the tooling should be applied when and how. So if we would say maybe more, from at least from my perspective throughout the project, would be more the why, because then they can see how it is beneficial or not. and also to nudge a bit more this collaboration. So it is also really bringing more a mirror to the industry, how you would actually work. But then you also know what you're stepping into a bit more consciously.
Thank you, Paulina. Annette, do you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
maybe it's also, I think the students are themselves very capable of thinking of what they do less and what they do more, and where they switch between, for instance, the physical and the digital. And they do experience themselves that if they do their pattern drawing digital, that also takes off a lot of their workload. So they are in fact quite capable, and I hope we teach them that to see for themselves where they can sort of gain time or do a little bit less, and where they have to maybe invest a little bit to yeah to take also something of their own workload or of their own things they have to do. So yeah,
Thank you, Annette.
I think they're in time they're sort of grasping that concept. Yeah, and also I think it's up to us to not make a very clear division between the physical and the digital, and also for them to sort of see it as one continuous thing they're doing without making calling it either this or that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And this iteration, I think, will be very good to bring out to the industry as well. Christel,
I think so too.
Leroy after that?
Yes. Yeah, about the thing about how much and what should they do and in and out. It's very difficult I find it's difficult for all students to be as engaged in the digital world because they might just be more hands-on. Sorry, I have a bit of a thing today. But I think it's also very important to make it very clear to the students that you don't need to have competencies within everything. But you need to have the knowledge, right? Because when you have the knowledge, when you know of it, you can collaborate and you can ask others, and then you can slowly build, if you want, your competencies, but you don't all need to have the same competencies in it, because we can't have all the competencies at the same level.
Very good.
Making them able to choose as well. Am I going to go more the hands-on or more digital? Well, I'll have to stop.
Thank you, Christel. And this is a good point, and I think multiple panels raised it also today, the combination of different skills and raising the skills in different levels. We've done projects with the schools that educate art directors, as in 3D designers or film animation designers. And they very much know the digital craft and would love to collaborate with a visionary designer because they can execute, but they can't envision. So great collaboration. Leroy, please add to the reflection.
Yes, I think if we really, I think you asked what students or we have to give up. And I think that's always a very scary thing. But I also do think as educators, we have to be bold and we have to be clear. And sometimes we have to also do the very painful thing. Students, I find, have to let go of perceptions of what it means to be a fashion designer. I know they all watched the Louis Prigent documentaries about Marc Jacobs in the early 2000s or Karl Lagerfeld, and they don't use Cloud 3D. They are not doing Blender, and it is so romanticized. And I do think, and this is always an extremely painful thing to do, but you have to do it. And I just also you just rip the band-aid off. Like, it is not a fantasy world. It is a real industry with real people that have, that have real jobs. And yes, we are dealing with representation and we're making all these wonderful fashion things. But in the end of the day, what we do is not representation, it's reality. And that is something I think students have to give up if they want to open up for this new world, for the cross-disciplinary world, and all the exciting things and relevant things. that is something they have to give up, to have to lower their expectations in that sense, so they open up for the next. Because if you keep the same expectations and the success, what success means there, and you have to do all the things next to it, yes, you burn out.
Leroy, amazing combination, because this opens up for my next questions. You know, that some of the key insights today is also this new future skills box that we have looked into, and we're luckily able to collaborate and work with the most amazing design schools here in Denmark and in the Nordics, and of course, every day, you know, the strong government looks into how many jobs are you creating and how many students are in, you know, great jobs and how is your employment rate and so on. And one of the things that I really encouraged and was happy to listen to today was this opening up of the industry, that as a designer, you're not supposed to go into this funnel of only one type of job. So many jobs, at least for my imagination, opened up today, especially when we talked about broadening the customer segment, understanding multiple needs, using body scanners to all of a sudden design for not only people with strong disabilities, but just people with different shapes and forms, and being able to empower brands so we don't only compete and curate within this very small, all of a sudden standardized market, but that we open up. And I really love the point about that these digital tools and specifically the students are gaining this common language, a visual language. So all of a sudden the design department can go and talk to finance or marketing, or even better, really talk with retail and their sales channels with the understanding of my intentions are, look at these visual elements that I'm designing. How are we going to move forward? Talking to production and so on. So what or which digital competencies should be mandatory in the years to come? Would you guys speak to this a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think we all wish we knew, because that's the whole thing about it. It is a changing world, and things are changing, luckily. And somebody, you said it before, I think, or somebody, it's going really, really slow. On the other hand, it's also going fast, but it's also going slow. So it takes a lot of time to change systems. And we have seen already, now that we're working for a long time with digital techniques in fashion, that we ourselves are also changing a lot the assignments that we think of, the way we think the digital tools should be applied. So it is going to stay a changing process, I think. We're still going to, I don't know, to find ways to connect with the industry, to see what they want, how they want it, what they're asking, or what we ourselves we want to do. So it's going to be a non-stop process of searching for the right angle to educate this. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Annette.
we did it already, and we thought, well, there might come a time when we know exactly how to do this, but we still don't know exactly how to do this. No.
Thank you.
Which is nice
Christel,
also. Yeah.
Christel, do you want to support the reflection here? What digital companies are mandatory?
Yeah, I would definitely back Annette with what she's saying, that we are constantly as educations looking out for what's happening and to keep relevant and so on. And we can't just say certainly, but some of the things we have found out in this project is also that the step-by-step builds the digital literacy that gives you an insight into how you can navigate in the next step. So even if we don't know, when we started out, we didn't know we're going to be overtaken on the inside by AI, but understanding, a deeper understanding of AI, of data set, and how you can either manipulate or use and so on, would definitely be something that you need to do in future. And in order also to do that, you also need to really build on your language, the way you talk about things, the way you therefore can prompt things, you can ask for things. You need to stay curious because our students, they are very curious, and so are all the educators here. That's why we're here. But you need to stay also curious on the new things coming, but understanding the underlying mechanism of it. So I could say, yes, you need to be able to be good at virtual prototyping, but if instead we end up doing a sketch by hand and then just having AI scanning that and then take it from there and then prompting the rest, or just copying from a photo from the internet. So it's very much about all the soft skills as well, being critical, being able to think about the future scenarios, what could be. So you're not just part of patching up or keeping up with, but you're also part of being the ones that make the changes or ask for the changes before they're ready for you.
So I also hear, Christel, that this is also maybe a skill that you need to be able to understand how to continuously develop or train yourself, and also how to maybe spot your own weak point. Like when you complete school, it feels like a jack is pulled out of you, and all of a sudden you have to figure out, where is my funnel of inspiration, and who's gonna challenge me in the future. So this is something that at least I wasn't trained for when leaving the environment of new exciting research, new tools. People keep asking questions, and you come out to the reality of KPIs and morning briefings and so on. You have to find this oasis of inspiration. But Aldje and Mathilde, you guys have a reflection on future skills as well. Please add.
Yes, I would like to add, I think indeed this adaptation is key, what Annette and Christel are mentioning both. But earlier, Christel also talked about knowledge. And I think this is also really important. And it's not indeed about the skills knowing to use a certain tool, but it's about insights around the aspect of sustainability, inclusivity, and diversity. So what does it that students really have the knowledge around the different aspects of it, like the idea that sustainability is not only about the environment, but has a social and an economical aspect. So to know these things more in detail, and talking about the Dutch context, we have these national competencies for higher art education. But what I think is lacking is indeed green competencies, but also the digital competencies. So I think we as art schools have to be a bit more bold in putting this in front of our education. So being, not, I agree with Annette in some parts that I think students, it's very important that students take the agency. But I think also we have the responsibility to introduce them to the right research, and that they know things, that they have been, that they've been pointed at research, which is so they can make their own decisions. And for me, research is then not about theoretical research, but it's about practitioners who are really, I mentioned already the podcast we made, but there are practitioners out there who are making these systemic changes and making the first step. So I think it's crucial that students are aware of these best practices, for example. Yeah.
So that's a very strong point, and it's also a point about next practices. These students are, they're stepping kind of out in a field where nobody have stepped the path before them. So there's a lot of new things, trying them for the first time. Mathilde, please add to the reflections on future skills.
Yeah, so this was more a reflection in regards to what you asked about what should be mandatory. And I think that question implies that it's one thing. And and I think building upon what Christel touched upon, we don't need the same competences. So very much in line with what we've been talking about today, that we shouldn't have a like one size fits all approach to like creating products. We should also not have that to like what skills we need, but we need to like have a mindset where we ask like what do I need for my practice, like how do I need to utilize these tools, and how do they create most value and in a sustainable way for what I do. And we need to move from, like, our students need to move from knowing how to use them and towards understanding why and when or for whom. So and by that using them critically. So yeah, that was my comment on your question.
Thank you so much, Mathilde. And then let's move to the last topic of reflection from the whole program today. If we look to the poll that you guys answered earlier, what should be the highest priority in teaching digital fashion? 75% of all of you replied critical thinking and ethics. So maybe that needs to be added to future skills that are mandatory in the future. But we also looked at what are the biggest barriers for your company adopting digital tools. And this is interesting because if we're talking about barriers and opportunities, if the industry is not adapting these tools, the students are in for a very rough job. But here, the feedback was that 50% of you felt the resistance to change was one of the barriers. And the second one, 44% of you replied lack of skilled workforce. And for me, that very much implies they haven't seen it yet. They haven't felt it. They haven't understood and gotten that aha feeling, so to speak. But then one of the other questions in the poll was also, what can the industry benefit most from collaborating with education? And here, 80% of you addressed that it's not only training future employees with digital skills, but the joint research on sustainable practices is also the reason or one of the benefits. So with these numbers in mind, let's move into what is some of those biggest challenges when we implement digital tools, and can we even overcome it? Can we change some of the industry? And the schools addressed earlier today that with all the technology, and I think it was Leroy mentioning this, that when you're in this bubble of being a student in the university environment, you have access to all these playful tools. You might even be able to go visit a physical lab where you can build and test things, and then you hit the reality and you have to make a business case on why do I need this subscription fee for something. And Paula, you were really good at maybe saying something about the digital rent has increased for brands. It's a process. It's not just a subscription to a digital tool that's important today and then tomorrow it's not important. But can we speak to some of these barriers and opportunities for the industry to move forward? Is there a final conclusion for the day? I don't know, Leroy or Paulina, if you want to add another comment before we go to Annette and Christel.
Like a final barrier, or like, I do see definitely in this new emerging industry that it prefers the big city again. In many ways, the discourse of fashion or the histories of fashions are repeating themselves. Do I fully agree with that? No, but I think it is. But I think being realistic to students and providing them the information, and yeah, things are going to cost money. That is that is increasingly, I mean, we are living in a subscription society. And now also being independent also means that you're going to be dependent on these kind of softwares, which is, I think, it's a huge problem. But we really should not negate the grassroots movements that are happening. And I must say, I know a lot of young designers, and not to expose any of them, but I feel like creators will always find a way to be creative. And beginning designers, they always find a way to kind of weasel the way around these costs. And also, let's also face it, I mean, yes, you can sit very passively and say like, oh, boomy, and this subscription is so expensive, and how can I ever? But I also know I myself, like I share my office in Paris. I have a kind of a big office, and there are young people that ask like, hey, you have a very solid internet connection. Like, can I rent a desk? And then also immediately like, hey, maybe we can share like a subscription on this and this and this. So yes, it's very difficult if you really look at this industry as something individualized, but I see so many beautiful kind of collaborations and sharing, of course, splitting, of course. But it's just like what young designer needs, like a full-fledged atelier, like with like pattern tables, all the machines that you could wish for, and only use it once every now and then. That's also not for everyone. So we have to also see that that laptop that used to be our private space might be also connected to a bigger network, and that collaboration is also key in this industry. So it's again perceptions of what it's going to be.
Thank you, Leroy, for challenging our way of thinking. Annette or Christel, do you have a small reflection?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I do agree, Leroy. But and I also find that when you touch upon the collaboration, this is also what we find that if you want to make changes, I mean, you can be one company or you can be one person and like that. But if it's going to make a difference, there has to be a kind of collaboration where you also will, as a company, will be willing to show how you reached your level of being digital in the company, because the thing is that the only thing that is going to pay for this is the environment, and it's the people on the planet. So it has to be shared, and then of course you can have your business secrets as how you design it, but the actual way you're doing it and how you implement it, I think could be very much more transparent and visible for others to be inspired and to see how they can do it. And of course, the thing is, these tools are so expensive, and there was a lot of people dreaming of something being a bit more democratic about digital tools, but we can only say it hasn't happened. But the dream is still there, that it could be actually a little bit more of a democratic thing, and definitely of collaboration to when you know something, when you have good knowledge, share it so others can benefit from it, and the planet too can benefit from it.
Annette, do you have something to add to this final reflection?
No, not really. I agree totally with you, Christel. I think of course, we really would like to see something more accessible entering the market, or I don't know, our lives and our students' lives exactly. And I think it will. And yeah, I think we also have to see what is going to be, what the future years are bringing us. Also in this talking about the workflow and how things in the industry are done, because it's such a huge system. You have to have the whole system with you in order to be able to work in a new way. And yeah, like I said, it takes a lot of time, but we will get there.
Luckily, we all have a strong voice that we can push with wherever we come from. And in the poll, it was asked, what should be the top funding priority in digital fashion research? And 86% answered open source tools and knowledge sharing. So I think the audience agree with Christel and Annette, more tools out there that we can easily access so everybody can pitch in. And in terms of revisiting the learning environment, and you guys throughout the day have spoken to the topic of lifelong learning, not only starting sooner, but also having access to lifelong learning when you're in the industry. And here 50% answered that they would like online flexible micro courses, whereas 60% answered partnership with industry to continuous learning. So it's really speaking to this ecosystem, which is also something I feel like you guys are addressing. It doesn't maybe have to be one paid solution. It can be an ecosystem. And this is something that we maybe need to step up a little bit and look into other industries. If we look to other product industries, one of the researchers I've followed for some time is researching into a very physical product industry, a very hardcore industry, as in expensive products they're producing. And here we see that all the technology has completely changed the business model. You're not buying a product anymore, you're buying a service. And this is something that can help democratize some of the funds that are swimming around and make it more flexible for us to access. So as we round off this final discussion and the closing of today, any final remarks? You know, it's always easier to be smart. Now you know everything. What would you have loved to tell yourself, you know, a couple of years ago with all the knowledge that you have today? Is there a final remark on, if only I knew this, which I know today? Ah, that's a big reflection.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, Leroy.
Go ahead, Annette, and then Leroy.
Yeah, I think what we knew a couple of years ago before we started this research project was that we were really open, and we were also very open to our students. And we said, well, we're going to do something. We're going to embark on this journey together with you, and we don't know the outcomes, and you don't know either. And that was really a super inspiring situation, because everybody was sort of curious and wanted to make the best of this. And after having done this research project, which was super interesting and really gave us a chance to dive in deeper, I think we should sort of get a little bit of this old spirit back and keep on looking at the future as like and admitting that we also don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I think also for students, that makes it for them so much more exciting to really discover something new. Yeah.
Leroy, and then Christel.
I think if we look at research, I think if I could have given myself a few more tips at the beginning, what I've really enjoyed about this process was the trainer, seeing each other in person. 5 years, 6 years ago, I think, when this was written, we were, I know this in kind of during Corona, I think we were all very optimistic about the possibilities of digital meetings and our ability to be very efficient whilst being online, because we were forced to do it. It was new, and we all had, as Annette said, like this really high energy that this thing would, this digital thing, oh my God, this is the solution. And now, after so many years, and after having sat in many digital meetings, I really can say, if you really want to optimize the digital experience and digital literacy, don't undervalue what it means to come together. And something gets lost along the way. A lot of gains. We've talked about the gains of the digital world today a lot, but also something gets lost. And that aspect of education, it really consolidates for me the importance of physical spaces to be creative together. So that is something I would definitely have given ourselves, like maybe see each other a little bit more
Thank you,
I
Leroy.
agree with
Good
you on
point.
that, Leroy, if I may say so. We had a closing, our own last dissemination project we had was physical, and we had some super nice discussions that lasted for the whole afternoon because everybody was so excited to be there and to be able to talk to real people and meet with real people who are all experiencing the same thing. So yeah, I
Thank you.
agree. Yeah.
Perfect. Bess,
And
the
and I
final
must say, I totally agree. And I was thinking the other day as well, Leroy, we only saw each other 4 times, and it's just been too little. And it is this thing, but it also points back to the fact that digital tools are tools, but what happens in between or how we use the tool, that is what matters, right? So also the being together, nothing beats that. The building things together. It has been, I can't say that from an education, if only we'd done education differently, that if only I'd known that back then, it would have been different, because I think we have, as Annette also touched upon, we have allowed ourselves to be on a journey, learning, being exactly where we ask our students to be open in the open room. We don't know what's going to happen, and we always tell them be calm about that. It's a way it's going to show itself, and we've been there, and it's been. I think this has been actually the strength of this development here, that we allowed ourselves to make something, reflect, let others reflect on it as well, and give us feedback, and then move on from that. But more time together would have been great. It would also have been great if we'd been together today, because then we would have popped the bottles together and celebrated. And now we have to try and celebrate with the screen. But yeah.
Thank you so much for the final remarks. I think I kind of keep with me that you were able to design a project that could iterate and kind of absorb a huge trend as generative AI came along, something you knew of when the project started, but probably weren't able to kind of say what it was going to mean. And this is something I believe the industry could very much take with them, listening to research projects like this. How are you able to question the future, knowing the one thing that you can only stick to is that change is happening? There's nothing static. So how are you maneuvering, and how are you switching path, and how are you unlearning something and learning something new and iterating in that? So a big applause to the project and all the people involved, and we're so happy that you're opening up and sharing with the rest of us. And as we're, entering the closing remarks here, I encourage again everybody to visit the roadmap and maybe even, in a couple of months, revisit some of these recordings from today, maybe even go into the website and look at some of the open source modules and revisit some of those aha moments or reflection moments you had during the day. It's no question asked that we have to look that digital literacy is and can be a tool for this green transition. It has to come with a critical voice, but it is one of the tools that we need to use. And we have definitely seen multiple examples today that technology is an enabler for inclusion and diversity, not only as a designer, but the ones that can design. So I want to say that it's invited to disrupt our human bias and question what we think is right. And then the collective responsibility that comes across education, design as a craft, industry, policy, that we all have to pitch in. We can't just rely that the students are going to come fix it all. We all have to chip in and raise the voice that we can where we can. So if we want a sustainable and inclusion fashion industry tomorrow, we all must design the competencies for it. And it starts with us. So big applause and a big, pat on the shoulder that you prioritized the time to join this conference today. So thank you so much for this panel. Christel, I'll hand over the mic to you.
Thank you, Heidi, and thank you very much for moderating this so nicely, and thank you all for participating. This is just the final thank you from the Me, You, Us group. Again, thank you very much to the associated partners, to everyone who helped, whether it would be the wheelchair user who told us about her life, the companies with various scanning methods, dedicating their help to us, and even though we're tiny small ones, but we have met so much goodwill, and this has been one of the beautiful things about being in this collaboration. It's been with together with UL and William D. Cornigan. We have from Design School Corning met so much goodwill, so much great collaboration, willingness to share, and kind of a trust in this could be a way forward to do some collaboration. So thank you to all of you. If you would like to stay and do some networking, in the lobby, the network possibilities are open to 4 o'clock. If you need any answers to any questions or reach out or anything else, you're more than welcome to contact us. In the roadmap, you will see the teams' names listed. You won't see all the emails, but feel free to use the emails you do see to contact us either nationally or as this international part. Thank you to everyone who attended today. It's been quite a lovely day and a great way to finish 3 years off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Flavia.